Hello and welcome to another video by Rick Miracle, me. In my series, Freemasonry and Satanism. I have another filler video, series number 30, when I reorganized my videos, which I started in 2013. I had some different series numbers for the same author, things like that. For example, when I made these videos on this book, I made a separate series, book review 8 or whatever, and then when I did another one, series number 11, 12. So when I reorganized, I made them all into one series number. And that would be series 26. So look at the cover of this book. It's a Scottish Rite of Freemasonry. It says New Age. It's got the two columns. It's got the triangle on the bottom. Fraternity, equality, liberty. A naked woman on the one side. And over here, an ankh on the other side under the man with the headdress on, and a serpent under his throat, and some Egyptian hieroglyphics. So the Supreme Council, 33 degrees. So who got these magazines called the New Age? Some people don't think that Freemasonry is involved in the New Age, but they have a magazine called the New Age. Just like the Theosophist Society, Helena Blavatsky, and the other people had a publishing company called Lucifer Publishing Company and Lucifer Magazine. But the Theosophist Society, the forerunner of the New Age and the Rainbow Coalition and everything else, they go, well, she had nothing to do with Satan or Lucifer. So common sense doesn't seem to exist for some people when you can see the words right on there. So what is it with even Albert Pike, one of the leaders of Freemasonry, the Scottish Rite, southern jurisdiction of the United States? He claimed that Lucifer was their deity. So who is Lucifer? Should we be concerned about that? And of all these groups, from the Freemasons to the Theosophist Society, Rosicrucian, and many other occults, organizations, secret societies, Illuminati, apparently part of the foundation of communism and Zionism in the newly created state of Israel, and the efforts to rebuild King Solomon's temple. Just done a lot of coincidences, which I, of course, don't believe are coincidences. And a lot of people will defend the Freemasons. They'll go, my brother was a Freemason, my uncle was a Freemason, my father was a Freemason. Well, they do recruit lots of people to join the Freemasons. That's where they get their money and their organizational powers. And they do swear allegiance to the master and even do a sign like this, swearing to have their throat cuts if they divulge the secrets or the don't obey the master or whatever. So how far have these groups gone in their control of Europe, America, the world? And what part do they play in the New Age, New World Order and some of the bizarre goings-on in the world today, September 7th, 2017. So the book I'm going to be going over is Letters on Freemasonry by John Quincy Adams, a president of the United States of America, his father being John Adams, one of the founding fathers of the United States of America, and a foreword by Text Mars, who recently passed away. I did a couple of videos on his books, Series 144, on the crossfire, the plot to assassinate John Kennedy, and the terror conspiracy, series 144, on 9/11, seemingly indicating to me that these secret societies are the source of where our politicians come from, presidents come from. John Kerry, who wanted to be president, George Bush, Skull and Bones. Just the name Skull and Bones ought to tell us volumes. But again, people want to be in denial. Why is that? So I'm going to read a little bit from this, but before I do, I want to continue my opening on this video by looking at a couple books. I just went to the bookcase to get, just so we can have an FYI, things you can go watch videos. This is the Blue Lodge Handbook. Famous handbook by Ronade, however you say his name. Blue Lodge and Chapter Masonry. Nice big thick book. You can see my tabs in there. But get this. 12 two-hour videos I have on YouTube. 12 two-hour videos. 24 hours, plus or minus. Series number 61. So if you want to know what goes on, I read from the book page by page, taking you through the first degree, the second degree, just like you were there, the third degree, the symbols, the Blue Lodge degree, like a fourth degree. And another book, Conspiracy Against Christianity. Did you know Freemasonry was the enemy of Christianity? Who else is the enemy of Christianity? What is Christianity? It's the belief that Jesus was the Messiah. Who rejected Jesus and crucified him? The Pharisees and some elitist Jewish people 2,000 years ago. A lot of people will say, Rick, don't you know it's a myth? It's been proven. I'm only saying this because that's what some people have told me. And then I think back and go, well, wait a minute. What's the date today? It's 2017. Why is it 2017 instead of 4,000, 5,000 years ago? Since we have recorded history. It's 2017 because it's from the birth date of Jesus. So I guess you really can't call it a myth. But the people, many people, regrettably, are believing the propaganda of the New Age and New World Order. And a lot of them are called zombies. They even made a TV program called Zombies, made a TV program, the Hunger Games series, which kind of shows what they plan on doing to the rest of us. Many other books in my series indicate this. This is series number 92. You can go watch my videos. Evidence that the Masonic Lodge has a secret agenda. Ralph Epperson, a well-known writer of several books. What else have I got? I just went to my bookcase and thought I'd look at some of the series that I've done. Here's another one I made some videos on. Series number 94. The New World Order. The magazine says New Age, New World Order. Look at the stuff on the $1 bill. Ralph Epperson. It's a conspiracy against Freemasonry, against Christianity. It says Masonry on the top there. Conspiracy against Christianity. It says Masonry on the top. Masonry magazine, The New Age. The New World Order by the same author. And the Egyptian symbolism, the pyramid, the all-seeing eye. Novus Ordo Seclorum, New World Order, Anute Conceptus, which apparently means the mission is complete. Series number 94. Go watch my videos. What else have I got here? Series number 70. secret societies and subversive movements. I made several 2-hour videos on this book. Nestor Webster, a well-known author. So my point is, there's just a lot of material. I made a lot of videos on this book, series number 85. You can see my tabs, how I tab the stuff when I read it. And of course, I highlight the material. So there seems to be a lot of information that's occultic in this book. Egyptian, ancient Jerusalem, King Solomon's temple, Jewish. And these people, not all Jewish people, have plans for a new age and a new world order. They're behind communism, Zionism, the Illuminati, Freemasonry, Rosicrucians, the Kabbalah, and apparently worshiping the same deity that the people in the witchcraft do and other organizations. Should we be concerned? And when is enough evidence enough? Series 108 of this book, well-known book, None Dare Call It Conspiracy. See the symbols on the front? By Gary Allen, another well-known author. So go watch my video on this book. And I did get a couple other Tex Mars books in the mail. Jim Mars, who recently passed away, excuse me. I have some video series on Tex Mars books also. So I'll be going over this. Rule by secrecy. Rule by secrecy. I was just looking at the book for a second. I'll just read you the contents. Part 1, Modern Secret Societies. The Trilateral Commission. Council of Foreign Relations. I mention this stuff all the time. Bilderbergers, Rockefellers, Morgans, Chase, Rothschilds, Secrets of Money in the Federal Reserve System, Empire Building, the Royal Institute of International Affairs, Roundtables, Rhodes and Ruskin, Skull and Bones, Tax-Exempt Foundations and Alphabet Agencies, It's News to Us Commentary, Fingerprints of the Conspiracy, Report from Iron Mountain. I made a video on that book. Persian Gulf, Who Pays the Tab, Vietnam, JFK opposes the globalists. You suppose that's why they did assassinate him? All the way with LBJ, Trading with the Enemy, Korea, Rise of the Nazi Cult, Theophist, Foolist, and other cultists. Wow, there's just so much more in this book. I've got to read it. But you know what I find? What I'm going to find when I read it? I guess the stuff that made up the 149 other series, 350 videos, 500 hours. I'm finding out I think I hit the nail on the head. I think I've got it straight in my mind what's going on. So I'll be making a special video series on my conclusions. Another book, I just went to my bookcase just to bring you this opening. Foreign Agents. The American Israel Public Affairs Committee from the 1963 Fulbright hearings to the 2005 espionage scandal. This is an important book that should be read by everyone, especially those who are in policy-making positions. Senator James Arbrecht, Grant F. Smith. So I haven't read this yet. Another one, like I said, I just went to one of my bookcases and grabbed a few books. I have so many on this topic I'm about to discuss. Virtual Government. CIA Mind Control Operations in America, Alex Constantine. I haven't read this book yet, but I collect books, lots of books. CIA Mind Control. And oh my, the 5G, that means fifth generation, by the way. Microwave, millimeter wavelength, real small, communication systems, computerized, is about to be released. So I guess you could call it the beast system. Billions of microchips connecting everything to the system. Things you hadn't even thought of. Certainly you, your cell phone, your TV, your car, your electricity, the cameras in the city streets, your everything, iPad, wireless systems. You won't be able to do a thing that they won't be able to track. It's like some of these sci-fi TV programs. Virtual government. And who controls it? And the book I'm going to be going over, Letters on Freemasonry, by President John Quincy Adams, whose father was one of the founding fathers, is going to talk about the Freemasons and something that happened years ago. Basically, the publication of this book. I've mentioned this book in previous videos. I haven't made a series number out of it. But anyways, one of the Freemasons from many years ago joined the Freemasons, found out some things that he thought were irregular, wrong, unethical, morally wrong, unchristian-like, and he was going to publish this book, Captain William Morgan, Exposition of Freemasonry. So he was going to publish this little book here, exposing some of the details of Freemasonry. And if you read some of the information or watched videos or even been a Freemason yourself, you know that you put your hand on a Bible and you swear under threat of death, having your throat cut, not to expose the secrets they teach you, and you learn, or you'll have your throat cut and killed. So this guy here left Freemasonry and went to see a publisher, and they planned on publishing this book. Well, the Freemasons, the higher levels, got wind of that, and they plotted and did all kinds of things trying to prevent the publication of this book. Having him arrested, breaking into the printing shop, stealing stuff, smashing equipment, all kinds of crazy things. We're going to hear about that in this book. So a president from the United States of America, John Quincy Adams, knew about this, knew about the murder of Captain William Morgan, the abduction and murder. Remember, if you expose the secrets, off, get your throat cut, and worse. So I'll read from this, and you decide whether you think the secret societies, whether they're the Freemasons, the Zionists, the Communists, the Illuminati, all the occults, the Kabbalah, witchcraft organizations, all the Satanism we see on TV programs, rituals, Super Bowl halftime shows, Emmys, Grammys, Olympic openings, tunnel openings in Switzerland, billboards I've shown, big goat on the Hoover Dam. A goat is a symbol for the devil. The goddess of destruction, Shiva, on the Empire State Building projected. The rainbow colors everywhere after the Supreme Court announced that states could not prohibit gay marriage. So this new age and new world order is moving forward, and there is activity, and a lot of people are submitting to it. Is it a good thing? Think about the Hunger Games movie. But let me read from this, and then you decide. You've seen all these books I've made videos on. Before I start reading, I just looked at another book I had laying here. The Secret Terrorist. Bill Hughes. I haven't read this book yet. I've just looked at it. But I was looking at the index. So these Freemasonry organizations, Masonic, the Illuminati, by the Rothschilds, Rockefellers, Bloodlines of the Illuminati, Fritz Springmeier, series number 9, I made videos on that. These are the people behind the State of Israel and financed its creation and financed World War I, World War II. They're part of the Illuminati. They're the ones who 100 or 150 years ago, or further back, infiltrated the Freemasonic organizations worldwide to make them a part of the Illuminati controlled. Remember, they controlled the money. And in 1913, remember, the Illuminati, the Rothschilds, and other banking elites created the Federal Reserve on Christmas holiday in the United States of America. December 21st, 1913. 6 months later, in June 1914, they started World War I. So you know they had to take over the USA money supply, which means they took over our politicians and our country. They had to do that to be able to fight World War I, World War II, and so much more. And they controlled the Freemasonic lodges and apparently the alphabet secret services. So I was looking at this book, The Secret Terrorist, if you want to know who's behind all this stuff. Table of contents here. Target America, President Andrew Jackson, Harrison Taylor Buchanan, President Abraham Lincoln, assassinated. The sinking of the Titanic, all kinds of stuff here they did for money or propaganda. World War I, World War II, President John Kennedy, the Waco Massacre, the Oklahoma City bombing, World Trade Center attack, religious terrorism in America. So all this is about destroying Christianity and apparently the Muslims' religion in the Middle East. And from Aleister Crowley's book I did, the Book of the Law, Series 23, apparently they are bent on destroying even the Buddhism religion and Hindu religion and all religions, and I guess bringing us this new age and new world order with some kind of deity called Lucifer in charge, Satan. Apparently reptilian beings mentioned in the Bible having something to do with the gray aliens, the Anunnaki, the Palladians, and so much more. I've got other books to go over. But I was looking inside this book briefly, just wanted to show the cover, but I just flipped it open randomly and I saw this one paragraph. So I thought, wow, how much of a coincidence is this? Page 21. John Quincy Adams, the book I'm about to go over, in the House of Representatives declared, in opposition to the compromise of Mr. Clay, no victim is necessary, and yet you propose to bind us hand and foot, to pour out our blood upon the altar, to appease the unnatural discontent of the South, a discontent having deeper root than the tariff, and will continue when that is forgotten. Adams was correct in his observation. The tariff issue died, but the smoldering embers of division had split America in half. The blood of the Civil War can be traced back to the Jesuit John Calhoun. As we watch Calhoun seek to rend America in two, let us remember the words of the ex-Catholic priest Charles Quiniquai. Rome saw at once that the very existence of the United States was a formidable menace. Wow. You think Rome saw that back then? To her own life. From the very beginning, she proficiously sowed the germs of division and hatred between the two great sections of this country and succeeded in dividing South from North on the burning question of slavery. There's more I could read here, but you might want to try to find the book. Small little book. So you have the control from Rome, the Pope, the Vatican. I grew up Christian, so I certainly don't believe it involves all Christians. But Rome didn't want to lose its control over the world. And apparently the hierarchy, the leadership of the Vatican, were in bed with the elite Zionist Pharisees or elite Jewish people into the Kabbalah. They were the financiers, yet again. So you have these power structures out there, and keeping most of we the people blind to the truth. And that's why I do these videos, and I've read so many books, just trying to get a little bit of truth out there, one little piece at a time, one video at a time, one conversation at a time. I'm going to read a little bit from this. A little bit about John Quincy Adams. There's his picture. President of the United States, helped to found the anti-Mason political party. Way back then, they didn't have the Republicans and Democrats. They had the Masonic Party and the anti-Masonic Party. The Masonic Party, I have figured out, a lot of the low-level members don't know this, but their deity are some of these ancient gods from Jerusalem, Egypt, the pyramids, the hieroglyphics, Ra, Osiris, Isis, we've heard of that before lately, Horus, the all-seeing eye on the dollar bill, and apparently Lucifer, Satan, the stuff mentioned in the Bible. And of course, the anti-Mason party would have been the Christians who believed that Jesus was the Messiah. But later on, for the divide and conquer purposes, they gave us the Republicans against the Democrats. And of course, the Republicans were supposedly the Christian conservatives, which, you know, a lot of people, 50-50. Some people are conservative and some people are more liberal. So it was the Republican conservative Christians against the liberal progressives on the left. So they could keep the country divided. And they're still playing that card. And regrettably, a lot of people are falling for the deception. I'm for we the people of the United States, and I'm for people in the other parts of the world, Europe, Asia, South America, for those citizens to be ruling their own countries and growing in prosperity and getting along with the rest of us. But the elite hierarchy, whether it is the Zionist or the Vatican or all these secret societies or all these cults, they want to maintain their control. And they have to keep that hidden, even if a lot of people have to die. That's what I've deduced from all this work since 2005 and making videos since 2013. And apparently they're using this UFO alien card against us. It's a huge deception. Planet X Nibiru is a huge deception. Pole shifting. Nobody knows when that would actually happen. With the technologies they have today, could they make it happen? Biodiversity, sustainability, terrorism. I've showed you the books. These secret societies, cults, groups, and organizations bent on destroying any kind of decency in the world, morality, want all of us either dead or enslaved. Anyways, John Quincy Adams, 6th President of the United States of America. President of the United States, helped to found the anti-Mason political party. In 1830, he was elected to the U.S. House of Representatives on the anti-Mason party ticket. So maybe that's a political party we need to start up again. Because apparently these Federal Reserve, Zionist, Communist, Skull and Bones, Freemasonry, high level, and other cults have taken over our country and are planning for a very bad day for the rest of us, and bringing us the 5G communication network, which seems to have a lot of sinister effects and abilities. It cannot be benign. Those short waves will go right through our bodies, and apparently it has a lot of functions that can either kill people or control people, mind control people, make people pass out, have heart attacks, and so much more. Imagine that, having an invisible weapon like that. And if you don't believe me, please go on YouTube, look it up on the computer, 5G network, dangerous, etc. Magazines, even Dr. McCullough, and many others, Jack Cruz. I've been watching a lot of videos and information about that. Even the leader, Tom Sawyer, whatever his name is, of the FCC, said that they're not going to test any of this stuff or be burdened by any questions. They're forcing it on us, and they're forcing it on us quickly. You can go watch the video of him saying that. Isn't that amazing? I couldn't believe it when he was saying it. He was very arrogant. He said America's going to be the first country to bring this out and have billions of microchips everywhere. And knowing what I know from these books, I say, oh my, who's in charge of the world, and what would they do with such a technology? What have they done with the HAARP system? What are they doing dumping chemicals in the sky? Why did they start World War I, World War II, 9/11, all the terrorist activities, false flags, testing plagues and viruses everywhere? 8 or 9 economic crashes since they took over the Federal Reserve in 1913. And the 100 years of the 1800s, they did the same thing in Germany before they even did it to the USA. They controlled the banking system and crashed it whenever they wanted to. They could just suck all the money out of the people. And if you know too much, you might just disappear. They don't want the truth out. I got 500 hours of research video material on YouTube. I'm going to have to find a new home for it. YouTube is concerning me. They've demonetized my videos. Not that I ever made 1 penny. I didn't. I haven't made a cent. But a lot of other people are having videos banned or demonetized. So I need to find a new home and change the way I'm doing things. So all the videos on YouTube, when I do find a new home, will have to come down. And I'll continue my research, but probably have some small subscription rate, and maybe do a couple books and some higher quality videos after amassing all this information. Going to make some changes, which I could use any donations to help me with that. On my website, rickmiracle.com, on the top right is a donate button where it says donate item. Just put in the word donate, and then any kind of funds you can help me out with. $1 to $10,000, whatever, will go for a good cause. Trying to save the world as we know it from these people who want to bring us a Hunger Games movie type of world. What's that worth to you? Who else is organizing things, trying to get the word out? Actually, quite a few people. Max Egan and others. I watch a lot of other people's videos, but man alive, that stuff about Planet X, pole shifting, and all this other doomsday prophecy or propaganda seems very ominous, very scary. Okay, so he was the president, John Quincy Adams, in 1830. This book, Letters on Freemasonry, contains examples of correspondences written by John Quincy Adams on the controversial subject of Freemasonry. So don't believe a darn thing I say. That's why I do book reviews. Right? Take notes, go look up the stuff I say. Go get the books. I'm just trying to get the truth out because I can see that our world is under attack. We the people. And so if you take 1830 And a famous president like this, does what he have to say matter? He went on to master Latin, Greek, French, Dutch, Spanish languages and studied law. And his father was a famous president. He graduated from Harvard University in 1787. I suppose he might know a little bit about what he's talking about. And he's talking about the abduction and murder of the guy who wrote this book and published it, Captain William Morgan. And so much more. Alright, and John Quincy Adams was neither a social backslapper nor a smooth operator type of politician. He was known as quiet, sober, plain-spoken, and serious, and he was dedicated to the improvement of his country. I've spent 13 years in my research trying to find out WTH, what the heck is going on? And when I found out what's going on, I just became more convinced I had to do something more. So in 2013, I started making videos. And now I'm reaching the 4-year mark on making videos, sort of a mile marker for me. Trying to figure out what I'm going to do on the 5th year. And things are changing, and they're changing quick. I think there's still time for we the people to save our world, but we certainly need to unite, whether you're a Democrat or a Republican. And I can't tell you how many people I know don't want to hear that. They want to treat it like a football game. They love this team and they hate all the others. And that's just ridiculous. We Republicans and Democrats need to work together, and we need to probably get rid of the extreme KKK, white supremacist Republicans, and the satanic Luciferian, extreme progressive rainbow coalition, transgenderism, pansexualism left. We've got to get rid of the extremes, which are a small portion of our population. Everybody else is in the middle. If there's 300 million people in America, this many are in the middle, and these two extremes are bringing us all this news you see on TV and the newspapers. Controlled organizations, whether they are protest people with signs, and all you have to do is think about it for a minute. Those protests, whenever I see one going on in my town, I check on other towns. And yes, indeed, they're going on. So they're probably coming out of the Masonic lodges everywhere. People high up are calling all their friends and relatives and organizing these things, whether they're the far right or the far left. That's the irony. The people don't know what's going on, so they don't see it. So we the people need to get organized in the middle. And my belief is I need to make a next step by changing how I'm publishing my videos, knowing that the censorship is taking place, the viewership, and who knows, a lot of people say they hear big tones and whining noises when they listen to my video. They leave comments. And a lot of other people saying that they've clicked it and their friends have clicked it and they don't understand why I never get more than 50 hits. When I get almost 50 hits in the first few days and it just stops, falls off a cliff. So then I'm watching other people who are posting videos, and one guy said he lost Max Egan on YouTube videos. He lost 5,000 subscribers in a day. He went to bed at night, he had this many subscribers, and he got up in the morning and somebody took 5,000 off of his notification list. So when he published a new video, 5,000 fewer people got the notification. So I suspect that's happening to me. And up to this point, I've been okay with it. I was developing my own theory on what's going on. So that's why it's important for me to get some donations, to go ahead and take this to the next level, maybe doing some presentations with all my photos I have and books I have, and getting people to organize together, Republicans and Democrats, and all the other people in between. We don't need to have hate anywhere. That also doesn't mean we have to destroy Christianity, and I certainly have not been a person that was prejudiced or biased against Jewish people or gay people or any other group of people. I've had this crazy philosophy that we're all in this together. Never thought about any of this stuff my whole life until 9/11, and I had a big zero birthday, and I went to Costa Rica, and some people at a tiki bar woke me up and told me the truth. I started investigating, and I had an OMG moment. I should have said I had an OMG week or two. I was in denial big time. All right, so I'm just going to start reading from the preface. Probably not even going to get into the book itself. The opening of this book tells a very interesting story. All right, page Roman numerals 8. When the books of Morgan and Allen and Bernard, the omissions of Colonel Stone of the Rhode Island legislative investigation, had left little to the mysteries of the Freemasonry unseen by the public eye. So back then, after the abduction and murder of Mr. Morgan, Captain Morgan, for publishing this book, The Exposition of Freemasonry, he was telling all. Let's see if there's any pictures in here about how you have your initiation. You have to get blindfolded. Probably can go on the internet and find this book. Here's an interesting symbol here. See the guy with his arms up? The Freemasons swear under oath with their hand on the Bible to help one another whenever they're in need and distress, no matter what the cause, unless they're guilty of high treason or something. So if I went to a courtroom, and most judges are Freemasons, etc., and I was being arrested, let's say I got caught speeding in a school zone, like 90 miles an hour. And so the police took me off to jail, and I didn't want to go through it, and I needed to get off. When they took me up before the judge, I would do this. That means I surrender, and it's a Freemasonic sign, and the judge will realize that you're a Freemason and dismiss your case. That's part of what's said in the book here. And they have more stuff that they do during the initiation. You can go see my 12 2-hour videos on Series 61 if you're so inclined to watch 24 hours of the initiation rule, things that go on, and the secret hand signs and everything you see in this book. So Captain William Morgan was back then going to publish this, and the Freemasons found out about it and took great lengths to try to stop it, ultimately winding up in his abduction and his death. And that made the newspapers and the investigation, and the Freemasons were in control in many aspects of our reality. The police chiefs, the judges, the legislators, everywhere that people are in control, the Freemasons and other secret societies like the Illuminati taking over and controlling the Federal Reserve. And of course we know a lot of the Jewish elite, the Zionist, communist types, control the banking systems and big corporations, and probably bringing us all these weaponized technologies like the 5G network. And so much more, chemtrailing, HAARP systems, propaganda in the news, insane movies, teaching our kids to dislike Christianity and Jesus, and telling them in grade school they can be a boy or a girl if they feel uncomfortable with what they are. Cartoons that tell kids this. So you're busy making dinner and you're letting your children watch cartoons. Do you know what those animated characters are saying? And who controls what's that cartoon programming? And do they have an agenda for the destruction for the world the way that we know it? Decency and family values. Whatever religion. Anybody who does not like the luciferic satanic new age that's coming will be the enemy to these people. This is all in Christian religious teaching, as well as I believe probably in a lot of the other religious books of other religions. There's always been the evil forces that the benevolent, God-fearing forces were trying to warn us about. That's why we have prophets, all these people who have become the heads of all these religions, like the Buddhists or the Hindus or the Islamic people or the Christian religion. These were people who came as humans to this planet and apparently possessed by some spirit from the divine world to give messages to us. Even Jesus said to the Jews back then, "Ye are the killers of your prophets." And like I keep saying, don't believe a word I'm saying. Write down what I just said and go look it up. Ignorance will not be bliss. It may be bliss up until the moment of the big event, and you won't know what's going on. You won't be prepared. All right, so anyways, the books of Morgan and Allen and Bernard, the admissions of Colonel Stone, and of the Rhode Island legislative investigation had left little of the mysteries of Freemasonry unseen by the public eye. So apparently back then, 1860, did I say? The abduction and murder of William Morgan was so popular it made all the newspapers everywhere and created a huge anti-Mason sentiment across the United States. And apparently, 100 or so years earlier, a courier in Germany crashed, and the authorities over there in Europe found the communist type of Illuminati manifesto, plans for creating the New Age and New World Order, which is also similar to the Protocols of Zion. So these documents, whether it's the Zionist, Jewish Zionists, communist, the Illuminati, or the Freemasons, have been exposed, have been discovered by mysterious acts of God, by the way. That courier in Europe, he got hit by lightning. When the authorities opened his little mail package, they found the Communist Manifesto, the Illuminati plans, Freemasonic lodges to take over France and Britain and Germany, Austria, the world. They were horrified. And back then, when William Morgan was abducted and murdered, it opened the eyes of Americans, and we were horrified. And all those Freemasonic lodges everywhere had to shut down. But people forget too quickly. All right, the impressions derived from observations were curious and contradictory. Upon the first hasty, let me get my speaking right here. Upon the first hasty and superficial glance, the feeling might arise of surprise that the frivolity of its unmeaning ceremonial and the ridiculous substitution of its fictions for the sacred history should not have long ago discredited the things in the minds of good and sensible men everywhere. So a lot of people were just in disbelief that the Freemasonic lodges on every corner in every town and city all over the America and the world, Europe, and all over the world, according to even this magazine, you can look at the back of the magazine. It tells you about all the lodges all over the world. Look at this. I've showed this in my series, but there's a list of some of the lodges. There's more pages all over the world. Haiti, Argentina. No country is not affected. And apparently behind the Freemasonry lodges were the Illuminati, and the Illuminati are part of the creation of the State of Israel. So there is this religious affiliation, and apparently it's a luciferic religion, which does not include all Jewish people. A lot of Jewish people are trying to get the word out on this, and many of my videos, book series, are written by famous Jewish people trying to expose the same thing I'm talking about right now. Benjamin Friedman, go look up his famous speech, or the video, my last Henry Ford, the automaker's video I made. I included his speech in there. Or media and press releases, my last one I did on that on 2017, I included Benjamin Friedman's speech in that one. So I got tons of material out there, 500 hours. Okay, so a lot of people just did not want to believe that the Freemasonic lodges everywhere, which apparently, according to Albert Pike, were kind of a religious organization, if you call Satanism religious, which I do. It's not a good religion. They sacrifice people, burn them at the stake, even build those big straw men. I guess a guy died the other day running into one. Why in the world, when people see the news and they see the burning effigy of a giant man made out of wood, don't they know that that is a satanic ritual? There's movies that show it. They put humans inside those things in the past and set them on fire. There's horror movies about that. But I don't know why people just don't want to say, that is wrong. A lot of people go, oh, it's nothing. We don't care that they have almost naked people on a railroad car in the Switzerland tunnel opening under the Great Alps, where they're all groping like in a sexual orgy, or they're dropping these demons from the sky with horns. It's nothing to worry about. Katy Perry doing a satanic ritual with horns. Madonna doing a satanic ritual with horns. What does it take for people to get it? Putting up the statue of the devil, Baal, in Oklahoma, they had a bunch of people rise up and said, no way, so they moved it to Detroit, had an opening ceremony in the middle of the street, and if you see any pictures of that, it looks like a witchcraft Halloween holiday in July. Look like a bunch of freaks. That's what they were. That's what they are. But I guess that's not the right thing to say these days. But it is what it is. The Archway of Baal in New York and London last year and the year before, there was a lot of uproar about that. People said, you can't put an archway to the devil. What are you doing? Later on, I found out they were putting 1,000 of these from UNESCO, from United Nations, all over the world. CERN, the portal, they're showing demonic beings in these sort of time tunnels. Apparently, gray aliens and other types of beings either manifest in thin air or walk through walls and portals. What is this other dimension we are dealing with? What's it got to do with Freemasonry, Illuminati, witchcraft, Kabbalah, mysticism, Zionism, communism, New Age, New World Order, and so much more? Bilderberger Group, Council of Foreign Relations, Heritage Foundation, Knights of Malta, Knights of Columbus, Bohemian Grove, did I say that? And so many more. Bohemian Grove, they throw a baby into a burning fire, calling it the cremation of care. Grown men, politicians, famous people, CEOs dressing in long robes for some kind of satanic ritual, bringing in gay men for homosexual sex, no women allowed. Don't people think that's a bit odd? And it was at the Bohemian Grove where they got together and came up with the idea for the nuclear bombs. That's what these people are into. And they have plans. Part of those plans, I believe, is like we had recently in Virginia and Alabama, White Lives Matter, white supremacist people getting up there parading and protesting and demonstrating to rile up the anti-fada, the left, anti-fascist, calling even President Donald Trump a fascist or a Nazi. Somebody's trying to create another revolution in World War III. So it seems. They would be happy if we, the people, would not resist and they can just do one of their false flags and bring about the martial law and some kind of way of depopulating the planet, a lot of people dying, and have their new age, new world order that way. But I guess the last resort might be the nuclear holocaust or some other technological weaponized event. EMFs. They keep talking about all this stuff. What you think about, you bring about. So says channeler Esther Hicks. And a lot of people are thinking about this stuff because it's everywhere. The channelers are saying it. The Planet X, Nibiru, Nemesis Destroyer are saying, people are saying it. The crust of the earth slipping, pole shift, earthquakes, volcanoes, people are saying it. Biodiversity, sustainability, droughts, bees dying, fish dying, people are saying it. What you think about, you bring about. And I'm saying to myself, man alive, the propaganda's off the chart everywhere. It's enough to boggle the mind. I think it's designed to boggle the mind. Back to the book. So the public was really unaware of the Freemasons, but upon the murder of Mr. Morgan and the Rhode Island legislative investigation, Colonel Stone, and the book, the public was waking up, according to what it says here. Yet upon a closer and more attentive examination, this first feeling vanishes. So a lot of people think, ha ha ha, don't be saying that, you're a conspiracy theory. But upon a little bit of investigation, so as says here on Roman numeral page 13 actually, gotta read my Roman numerals correctly, the feeling vanishes and makes way for astonishment at the ingenious contrivance displayed in the construction of the whole machine. So that's why I had this opening and all this stuff I've been saying in this video. The construction of the whole machine. Back then in 1860 they were in awe of this. Look what they've done since then. World War I, World War II, and so much more. They were probably responsible for the revolution between the North and the South in the United States. And I believe that is a fact. I've researched some of that. They had agendas, they had plans. All right, a more perfect agent for the devising and execution of conspiracies against the church or state could scarcely have been conceived. So far what they've done, like 1913, taking over the USA money supply by creating the Federal Reserve, and 6 months later starting World War I, and those events were so they could destroy a lot of the powerful leaders in the world who were preventing the Zionist elitist Jewish people from taking over the Palestinian land to create the state of Israel that was prophesied, rebuilding King Solomon's temple so they could have the aristocrats of the world rule over the rest of us. And apparently behind the scenes, the secret societies and secret entities, I know people don't want to grasp this, and my friend told me the other day, Rick, you turn people off, they're just going to shut your video down when you say what you're going to say next. But apparently it involves some kind of interdimensional beings like reptilians, gray aliens, Palladians, Anunnaki, or whatever. Apparently these creatures do exist, and they are fallen angels from God's world, and it's in the Bible, and so much more. In the ancient hieroglyphics, whether it's in Mexico or India or China or Romania or Mexico or Peru, there are monuments all over the world of a civilization prior to the Great Flood. And apparently, they're trying to take control of the world again, a return to the Golden Age. And they control the Freemasonic organizations, the Illuminati. They're part of the Zionists, the Communists, and all those other names I said. So at the outer door stands the image of secrecy, stimulating the passion of curiosity. And the world which habitually takes the unknown to be sublime could scarcely avoid inferring that the untold mysteries, which were supposed to have been transmitted undivulged to any external ear from generation to generation, must have in them some secret power richly worth the knowing. So some of these secrets that the Freemasons had was very tempting to a lot of people, just like the Rosicrucians and all the other cults. That's why people are drawn to these things. But what they don't understand is the people who actually control these organizations have no intentions of really divulging the secrets to these people. But they do use them as filters, recruitment camps. They do want to find people who are naturally sinister and evil, who will go along, who are perverted and hateful and murderous. And these are the people who wind up as our leaders and leaders of the corporations, the billionaires. If you've even listened to some of the quotes of the billionaires, Ted Turner, Bill Gates, the prince over there in England, and so far. Benjamin Netanyahu, Prime Minister of Israel right now, look up what he said in Fink's Bar. Prime Minister Sharon of Israel, in his Congress, he screamed out, "Don't worry about America, we control America." Go look it up. President John Kennedy's famous speech, "Secret societies are repugnant to the American way of life, and I intend to expose them." Look what happened to him. All right, here was the temptation to enter the portal. So people wanted to join these secret societies, Freemasons, to learn the secrets. But the unlucky wait, like him of the poet's hell, when once admitted within the door, was doomed at the same moment to leave behind him all hope or expectation of retreat. So once you join the lodge, swear under oath, put your hand on a Bible, have your throat cut to divulge the secrets, like joining the Illuminati or the Mafia or all these other organizations, communism. Once you join, you're in. And if you resist or go to expose their secrets, or worse, even your family. These groups have done horrible things throughout history. It's about time we the people wake up. His mouth was immediately sealed by an obligation of secrecy. I'm talking about the initiation to become a Freemason. Imposed with all the solemnity that can be borrowed from the use of the forms of religious worship. So they make this initiation like a religious worship. But it's luciferic, it's satanic. Of course, it's disguised. They don't want the recruits to know that. Nothing was left undone to magnify the effect of the scene upon his imagination. High-sounding titles, strange and startling modes of procedure, terrific pledges, and the imprecations, and last, though not least, the graduation orders in an ascending scale, which, like the mirrors placed in a long vistas, had the effect of expanding the apparent range of vision almost to the infinitude, were all combined to rescue from ridicule and contempt the moment of discovery of the insignificant secret actually disclosed. Having thus been tempted by curiosity to advance, and being cut off by a fear from retreat, there came last of all the appearance of a significant infusion of religious and moral and benevolent profession to furnish an ostensible cause for the construction of a system so ponderous and complicate. Some of these words are a bit odd. They just so ponderous and complicated. I would have called it complicated. The language of the Old Testament, the history as well as the tradition of the Jews. So it's all about King Solomon's temple, all these mysteries I keep talking about. These are the things, if you go watch series number 61, 2 hours of video I made from the Blue Lodge Handbook, you will see secret passwords, hand signs, everything I showed at the beginning of this video. The resources of imagination are indiscriminately drawn upon to deck out a progressive series of initiating ceremonies which would otherwise claim no attribute to save them from contempt. So if people really knew what was going on, these organizations would be treated by the populace, we the people, with contempt. But they keep everything in secret, even if they have to abduct and kill somebody. Ashamed and afraid to go backwards, the novice, the new initiate, suffers his love of the marvelous, his dread of the personal hazard, and his hope for more of the beautiful and the true than has yet been doled out to him, to lead him on until he finds himself crawling under the living arch. So he winds up finally getting the Royal Arch degree. And when I was reading that, I said, oh my, wasn't that the Arch of Baal, the Arch of Palmyra, the Arch of Titus? They were putting in New York and London, and later on I found out 1,000 of them from UNESCO, from the United Nations. The Arch of the Devil. Just saying, it is what it is if you study this stuff. But it does take a little bit of work to kind of get your head wrapped around something that you or I don't want to believe. It's just a bit mind-boggling, you think? Or committing the folly of the fifth libation. He then too, it's talking about initiates here, he then too late discovers himself to have been fitted for the condition either of a dupe or a conspirator. So what happens after you get a few degrees and you start to get a clue what's going on? You feel like an idiot, you spent all that money, or did all these weird things, half naked, blindfolded, initiation, swearing under threat of death, and so much more they did to you. Studied all the material, and find out what's going on. Either feel like a dupe or a conspirator. He has plunged himself needlessly into the abyss of obligations, which, if they signify little, prove him to have been a fool. And if, on the contrary, they signify much, prove him ready at a moment's warning to make himself a villain. So if you're an unscrupulous person, selfish and greedy and perverted, they're going to offer you all you want. So some people will reject what they find, and some people will embrace it. And apparently it's quite the recruitment organization, like the Skull and Bones, John Kerry, George Bush Jr., and so many more of our politicians coming from the Council of Foreign Relations and all these other secret societies. Policemen, judges, they have infiltrated all of our society. It puts us in a quandary position. We're really in a pickle here because they're trying to bring us this new age and new world order, and these same elitists control the corporations which are controlled by these people, bringing us the 5G network, chemtrailing, the Patriot Act, 9/11, World War I, World War II. You get the idea. I could go on here. Such is the impression of the Masonic institution that must be gathered from all the expositions that have been lately made. And remember, I'm reading from a book written by President John Quincy Adams. Keep that in the back of your mind when I say these words. Yet strange though it may seem, there is no reason to doubt that the society has had great success in enrolling numbers of persons in many countries among its members and in keeping them generally faithful to the obligations which it imposed. So for some reason, they have a huge ability to recruit members. And they do take care of their own, as you shall see. So you do wind up being given jobs, put in positions, high positions in those jobs, everywhere across America and apparently across the world in other countries. So you can bring more of your own in from other lodges, people who have been checked out. These are the people put in charge everywhere, the people who will obey the master. All right, moving on. I'm reading my highlighted portions. Obviously, I'm not going to get very far in this book with 2 hours, so there will be a part 2 and part 3 as time goes on all of my books. Perhaps the strongest feature of the association is to be found in the pledge. This is one of the pledges you make when you get initiated into the Freemasons, and other cults, I'm sure, from my research. It imposes a mutual assistance in distress. Remember that I surrender symbol? If you're in distress, I guess if your car ran out of gas and you went out there and you were a Mason, you just went like this standing by the highway, a Freemason would know what that means when he drives by and would pull over and assist you. Just saying. People who have been captured at wartime, who were on the enemy's side, would do this. And the other people who were Freemasons would slip them out of the camp and set them free. Many examples of that. So I guess to be in cahoots with these people has lots of perks and benefits, albeit that they do things against society and have unfair advantages against we the people worldwide. On this account, much merit has been claimed to it, and many stories have been circulated of the benefits which individuals have experienced in war, just like I said, or its perils by sea and land, and in other disasters by the ability to resort to the great hailing sign. Moving on. This argument, which has probably made more Freemasons than any other, would be good in its defense were it not for 2 objections. One of them is that the pledge to assist is indiscriminate, making little difference or no difference between the good or bad nature of the actions to promote, which is a cooperation may be involved. So, like I said, if you're a judge or a police officer, whatever, you help a fellow Mason when they're in distress if they let you know they're in distress. And so other people, when similar incidences that they may get arrested or have troubles, they don't have people to save them. The other is that the engagement implies a duty or of preference to one member of society to the disadvantage of another who may be in all respects his superior. So even if you're a Mason and you're way down on a totem pole and somebody up here sees your distress sign, they're supposed to help you versus all the other people ahead of you. It establishes a standard of merit conflicting with the established by the Christian and other social system, either of both of which ought to be of paramount obligation. So I guess if there were 20 people standing in line for food and water, they were starving, let's say a major catastrophe happened, and somebody at the back of the line went like this, and the person, I almost dropped my book there, and the person at the front doling out the food was a Mason, and he saw you do this. He would put you in front of the line and get you some food and water before the other 19 people. Just using that as an example. And this injurious preference is the most dangerous because it may be carried on without the knowledge of the sufferers. The more scrupulously conscientious a citizen may be, who hesitates at taking an oath, the nature of which he does not know beforehand. So when you go take these oaths, probably don't know what they really are beforehand. The more likely will he be to be kept down by the artificial advancement of others who may derive their advantages from a cunning use of their more flexible sense of right. So like I said before, you're taking this oath, and if you mumble out some words and you say, well, this doesn't seem right, well, you won't advance up the hierarchy. They're looking for people who are dupes and fools to put them in charge of our world, who will obey the master. So a president of the United States said, John Quincy Adams, in 1860. Who are you going to believe? And I've gone over many other books. Like I said, I have about 500 hours published. Over 330, 40 videos, maybe more. I'm about to do 150 series. That'll be next. The Cause of World Unrest, published in 1920. Thanks to one of the commenters of my videos who told me about the book, and I found it on PDF format on the internet. I started reading it and I go, there's 150. The Cause of World Unrest. It pretty much encompasses the 149 other series book reviews I've gone over, almost 200 books. Like I said, 500 hours, 300 and something videos. It all is connected, which I kind of thought when I started this, and I had no idea where it would take me, because I've even investigated psychic abilities, ghosts, angels, UFOs, aliens, organizations. And then, of course, it was a little difficult to go into the Jewish information, anti-Semitism, Zionism, Kabbalism. That was an eye-opener. I said, oh my, these people worshiping some kind of pagan god deities have been around a long time. And they have plans for us. That these are not altogether imaginary objections, there is no small amount of actual evidence to prove. There has been a time when resort to Masonry was regarded as eminently favorable to early success in life. So I suppose if people joined the Masons and they had a nice little early success in life, they would tell their friends, wouldn't you? People get reeled in. And there have been men whose rapidity of personal and political advancement it would be difficult to explain by any other cause than this, that they have been generally understood to be bright Masons. So it wasn't really about your intelligence or your quality of your personality. It was your ability to obey the master and to follow orders. FYI. They did not want a good Christian, a good decent man, the person who questioned what was going on, the ethical man, the moral man. No good. Just go look up the information about the skull and bones and the rituals they go through. They have to get something on these people. They take them out, get them drunk, have them cheat on their wife, steal something. Once they got them, they got them. That's what we're dealing with, so it seems. These are the people behind even the 5G network, chemtrailing, HARP systems, control of the American money supply, spying on America, Jade Helm 15, FEMA camps, corporations. Makes you wonder how so many people could join these satanic organizations. Makes me wonder. Maybe they don't believe that they're spiritual beings in biological bodies. They're going to have to answer for that someday. Another argument which has been effectively resorted to as an aid to Freemasonry is drawn from its supposed antiquity. To give color to this notion, the very ingenious use has been made of much of the sacred history. So that's why you got Albert Pike's Morals and Dogma. I've made many videos on his book. I'll be making more videos on it. But that's like the Theosophist Society or the Kabbalah or all these other luciferic cults. It seems quite mysterious when they talk about Ra or Osiris or Isis or Horus or Moloch or all these symbols. It's mysterious, so I gotta join the Freemasons. And I'll do whatever they tell me to do under threat of having my throat cut. So it seems. Whatever may have been the nature of the associations of Masons who built the Gothic edifices of the Middle Ages, the investigations entered into by those who opposed speculative Freemasonry sufficiently proved that the latter scarcely dates beyond the early part of the last century. So yes, indeed, hundreds of years ago, these might have been decent fraternal organizations of Masons, stone builders, stone cutters, etc. But apparently, that kind of went down, and it was taken over by the Illuminati elite, and it became speculative instead of operative, where you had actual Masons in Masonry. It was so well organized with all its rituals and hand signs. It was a great tool for the Luciferians to take over. The air of traditional mystery, like the rugo on many a pretended coin, has been artificially added to heighten its value to the curious. Yet such has been its effect that this cause alone has probably contributed very largely to fill up the ranks of the society. So people join looking for the mysteries, the secrets, business opportunities, etc. Camaraderie. The rapidity of its growth during the period of its legitimate existence is one of the most surprising circumstances attending its history. Originating in Great Britain somewhat about the beginning of the 18th century, during the 1700s, it soon ramified not only in that country, but into France, Germany, and it spread itself into the colonies of North America. It's funny when you see the word and you say something else. And made its way to the confines of distant Asia. So it also had North Africa, South Africa, Asia, South America, North America, France, and Germany. And even in Nestor Webster's books I showed you earlier, World Revolution, the Freemasons were indispensable behind the scenes, bringing about that revolution and the destruction and death to many people. So I suspect these organizations, I don't suspect, I kind of know from my research, I believe, they were behind World War I, World War II, 9/11, and so much more. Kennedy's assassination. It was the secret societies. And they controlled the alphabet investigation, these CIA, FBI. Sometimes some words slip my mind. Although the seeds of the institution were early planted in Boston and Charleston, they did not fructify largely until after the period of the Revolution. So they really weren't so successful in the United States until after the war between the North and the South. And remember, it was Albert Pike that was a general for the South. By the way, after the war, was pardoned by the president of the North because he was a Freemason. And Albert Pike was actually a higher rank than he was as a Freemason. And in Charleston, there's a statue to Albert Pike. FYI. The original form of Masonry was comprised in what is now called the first 3 degrees. And like I said, Series 21 Blue Lodge Handbook, 12 2-hour videos, if you feel so inclined. The entered apprentice, fellow craft, and master. But during the first quarter of the present century, so thoroughly had the basis been laid over the entire surface of the United States that the degrees have been multiplied more than tenfold. So now we have, I think, 33 degrees. You can study and pass up to 32 degrees, and you have to be elected to the 33rd degree. If they elect you, you will go up to Washington, D.C., I believe, for the ceremony. And in all directions, the materials have been collected for a secret combination of the most formidable character. It was not until the history of Morgan, here we go with the story, the guy who was abducted and killed, who was going to publish this book. I guess the book was published. I have a copy. Okay, it was not until the history of Morgan laid open the consequences of the abuse of the system that the public began to form a conception of the dangerous fanaticism which was cherishing in its bosom. Even then, the endeavor to apply effective remedies to the evil was met with the most energetic and concerted resistance, and the results of the struggle was by no means a decided victory for the opponents of the institution. So these Masons permeated all of our society and were suppressing all the news even back then when there was the murder of William Morgan and the reluctance of the government, everywhere, governments, to investigate and prosecute those men involved in the abduction and murder, and all the other organizations of Freemasonry crossing several states from where Morgan was abducted to where he was taken. There were a lot of people involved, well organized by the lodges in numerous states. And as the investigation went nationwide, many other people joined in the cover-up. And slowly they were exposed and was making the newspapers. It just went out of control, the scope of this. So think about that about 9/11. Think about that about this pending event that's supposed to happen. Some catastrophe, maybe some nuclear explosion in some USA harbor. Something, some plague released by all the biological weaponized black projects going on in the United States to bring about the New Age and the New World Order. That's what's concerning. Once you realize that these secret societies are in control of our society, and once you realize what they want, and once you also realize that it apparently involves deities, evil as they may be, from another dimension, it's concerning. Who are the Anunnaki, Palladians, fallen angels, archons, watchers, gray aliens? What kind of technologies do they have? A lot of people are aware of the monuments all over the world of ancient civilizations that were seemingly were greater than our own. We can't build some of those monuments today. It involved anti-gravity devices, etc. Laser beams like in Ecuador to cut huge caves out in the mountain before the Great Flood so they could save a remnant of the human race. The Hopi Indians have that story. Romania, Turkey, all over the world there's stories of people from these indigenous tribes all over the world being saved from the flood with, I guess, some kind of super technologies. So who are the Anunnaki, Palladians, reptoids, reptilians, gray aliens? These Lucifer satanic beings with symbolisms who think that we the people are cattle or profane. And they want to depopulate the planet by 90%. They've been doing a lot of work at mind controlling people, putting the propaganda out there. Even then, the endeavor to apply effective remedies to the evil, remember this is President John Quincy Adams calling this evil, was met with the most energetic and concerted resistance, and the result of the struggle was by no means a decided victory to the opponents of the institution. So I read that. Freemasonry still lives and moves and has a being even in New York and Massachusetts. I'm from Maine, and I noticed the last time I was up in Maine, we had a lot of Freemasonry street names. Masonry Avenue, Freeman, all these names I noticed. So I suppose some of these states are heavily Freemasonry. And apparently all over the world now, like California, LA, they're heavily satanic. Church of Satan, one of the fastest growing churches around. No wonder with all the symbolism you see everywhere. This blows me away. Every time I turn a corner, I see more craziness. I was out dancing at a birthday party the other day at a local night spot, and I looked down on the floor, and there was these circles with these stars scribbled on them in chalk on the cement floor everywhere. And if some of the words were even satanic, I felt like I was at some kind of witchcraft ritual. I mean, I had a couple beers and I was questioning my mind. I said, am I crazy? Look what I'm seeing. So when I thought about it and told my friend the next day or so, they go, yeah, I saw that. And then I looked at my pictures and I looked at the people's feet. I'd taken pictures of friends because it was a birthday party. And I noticed the chalk symbolisms on the floor. Wasn't my imagination. And then that one billboard with the bottled water in rainbow colors, with the hand doing a 3-6 symbol like this, in rainbow colors with the eye in the middle. I've showed that in previous videos. This is not my imagination or anybody else's. Don't question yourself. Just look into it. And once you become convinced that something's going on, it kind of, it's a little concerning. You go, well, what do I do? My suggestion is people need to talk about it. And we need to realize they're pulling the left extreme and the right extreme out to bring us this hate. Because apparently they want to create some hate laws so people can't talk about the truth. And at the seat of the federal government, here we go, thinking about George Bush Jr. and the Skull and Bones and so much more. And at the seat of the federal government, Freemasonry at this moment claims and obtains the privilege of laying the cornerstone of the national institution created upon the endowment of James Smithson for the purpose of increasing and diffusing knowledge among men. So even in federal government, even in the federal buildings, and I'm sure with federal contracts to do things, and that includes all these secret societies and international corporations, it's all connected, even with the Federal Reserve created by the Illuminati, the Rothschilds, who are the same people that financed the creation of the State of Israel, as well as involved in World War I, World War II. All this stuff was planned. Concerning? An obvious danger attending all associations of men connected by secret obligations springs from their susceptibility to abuse in being converted into engines for the overthrow or the control of established governments. And as I said earlier in my videos I made about Nestor Webster, you can go look up my videos, the Freemasons were certainly involved in the French Revolution, and of course Jewish people involved with the Russian Revolution, the Bolshevik Jews. The Jewish people, the banksters, not all Jewish people. Apparently we have to pay attention. It's people who have turned to this satanic luciferic religion. And they don't have to be Jewish to have done that. And it involves some kind of beings, seemingly not all human, and maybe even four-dimensional, coming in and out of this dimension, or channeling through information, through channelers and psychic ability, mediums. Least we forget, during the 1800s to the early part of the 1900s, I think it was 1840 to 1940, psychic research societies were busy everywhere. I got tons of books on that, and we'll be looking at those books again. All that psychic research, channeling with entities, communicating with beings from the other side. Back to the book. So soon was the apprehension of this excited in Europe by Freemasonry. So soon was the apprehension of this excited in Europe by Freemasonry that many of the absolute monarchies took early measure to guard against its spread within their limits. So the monarchies, the leaders, dictators all over the world, maybe they were benevolent, I'm not trying to say a dictator is evil, but when families, royalty ruled countries, the monarchies took up measures, early guard against the spread of Freemasonry in their limits. So a lot of people all over the world were aware. And like I said, in the 1800s, that courier had a crash. He got hit by lightning. And in his pouch, they had discovered all the plans for the New Age and New World Order, the overthrow of countries worldwide. Those are facts. And all the Masonic lodges all over Europe, most of them were shut down, burned, and whatever. Freemasonry was banned, made illegal. Today in America, Illuminati, Federal Reserve, Freemasonry, secret societies, occults, Church of Satan, it's all thriving. And people are falling for it like a rock. Rome, Naples, Portugal, Spain, and Russia made participation in Freemasonry a capital offense. I guess you could get executed. That's serious, you think? Other governments more cautiously confined themselves to efforts to control it by rigid system of supervision. I thought about that, with all the turmoil and troubles for the last couple thousand years that the Jewish people ran into all over the world known at that time. They had to wear badges, or they were banned from buying properties because they had a propensity to be taking over everything, and they were well organized. And I thought they had to be controlled by a rigid system of supervision, according to the Encyclopedia Judaica I've been going over. I'll be looking at that again. But apparently these Freemasonic organizations, who also are focused on the temple in Jerusalem, King Solomon's temple, and all the hieroglyphics in Egypt, all these secrets. So even the Freemasons or the Jewish people, efforts to control it by rigid system of supervision. That was a common denominator there, is what I'm trying to say. In Great Britain, the endeavor of the government has been to neutralize its power to harm by entering into it and by placing trustworthy members of the royal family at its head. And even in Great Britain and Spain, they, at one time in history, had exiled all the Jewish people from the country. And apparently here they had to take over the Freemasonic lodges. And like I said, it was the Illuminati, which are the head of the Zionist, communist, Jewish groups trying to create the New World Order, New Age. And they control the Freemasonic lodges and a lot of the other secret society organizations. I haven't said that 10,000 times in my 500 hours. I haven't said it once. I have said it a lot. That was the amazing thing I got from my research, completing my 13 years and reading hundreds of books and hundreds of magazines, watching thousands of videos on YouTube and other places, alternate websites, reading material, digging up old PDF documents, buying old books, I have like 1,000 books. I did not know where this was going to lead me. And there's still some holes in my story. I need to get some more questions answered, which, God willing, I will. But it would help if I got some donations, some money to be able to change some of the things I'm doing, because I do realize my videos are being suppressed. And I need to spend several months focused on trying to do a book, maybe creating a more interesting website, or maybe even going out there and having some meetings with people and talking. Not that I want to be any great leader. I would love it if people in communities everywhere would organize themselves, and we would all be organized together. Whether you are a Democrat or a Republican, whether you are Jewish, black, white, anything. I do not believe in prejudice and all that. I am opposed to Satanism and Luciferianism and any kind of entities that want to sacrifice or eat we people. I hope that's not something people will say negative. That is negative. Those things I'm not happy with. I'm not happy to that big Burning Man wood thing they made, and that guy crazily ran into it and got burned in the news the other day. The Burning Man. That's a satanic ritual. And I found on the internet, I went and looked up some other documents on that, and a lot of other people know it's a satanic ritual. I wonder how many people saw the press releases and the pictures and go, wow, I didn't even know it was a satanic ritual. The Archway of Baal in New York and London, and 1,000 of them apparently by the UNESCO, the United Nations. The Swiss tunnel ritual. It's like those Indiana Jones satanic rituals where they're lowering that lady down into the lava and having all that satanic ritual on the top. Demonic rituals. Apparently, this is what is in control of our world. As crazy as it sounds. I mean, it is what it is. If you research and you study for 13 years and you put this much focus on it, and now these other 800 books I have, if I go read the rest of them, I can pretty much surmise I'm going to find more of the same information. That's a little mind-boggling to realize the truth. And to realize that these people do have control of our world. Alright, I got 20 minutes to go. I'll try to finish this video. I like to keep it about 2 hours. In Great Britain, the endeavor of the government has been to neutralize its power to harm by entering into it and by placing trustworthy members of the royal family at its head. Yet even with all these precautions and prohibitions, it is believed that in France at the period of the Revolution, I've got books on this, and in Italy within the present century, much of the insurrectionary spirit of the time was fostered, if not in Masonic lodges, at least in association bearing a close affinity to them in all essential particulars. So whoever is at the top of the pyramid, the Illuminati, etc., the all-seeing eye, or some kind of demonic four-dimensional beings, they were controlling the Masonic lodges in France, which was part of that horrific revolution. A lot of people died. It was horrible. Can you imagine? And they're trying. Can you imagine if they pull the one off in the USA and the world they're trying to do right now? And then, of course, how is the 5G, fifth generation, millimeter size wavelengths, all combined with the computer beast, even tested during Jade Helm 15 in 2015, FEMA camps and all the biological weapons they have and chemical weapons they have. And so many resources on the planet have been destroyed. Bees dying, birds dying, Pacific Ocean polluted with radiation by Fukushima, and so much more. People know this all over the world. The resources are being destroyed. So I suspect whenever they do, whatever they're going to do, they do not want people to have the ability to survive. There just seems to be something sinister planned. And I'm seeing all this craziness on the YouTube videos with Planet X. And I see that it goes back to 1985 and 1888 with Helena Blavatsky of the Theosophist Society, 1972, NASA cover-up. Then I know about some of the people who created NASA who were into the JPL, Jet Propulsion Laboratory, Jack Parsons, who was affiliated with Aleister Crowley, who were into this Satanism. And the badges for the Space Center, NASA, for the astronauts and the other organizations, they all have reptilians on them. Go look up the NASA badges for the astronauts and the pilots and the space shuttles. You see the reptilian everywhere. I guess it's just so far out there, people don't want to deal with it. But the problem is we're going to have to deal with it sooner or later. Because apparently it's like a freight train coming at us right now. Like the Hurricane Emma in the Atlantic heading towards Florida, so they say. All the governors in Florida, North Carolina, South Carolina, all this stuff is going on today, Thursday. Be curious to see where that storm is tomorrow. With regard to the United States, there has thus far in their history been very little to justify any of the most serious objections which may be made against Masonry in connection with political affairs. Well, that was this book, and when this ex-president wrote this book, 1860. But now that we know what's been going on in all those books I showed you at the beginning of this video, Masonry, Illuminati, all these secret societies, Skull and Bones, etc., Council of Foreign Relations, Bilderberger groups, and so much more. Bohemian Grove, with the throwing a baby into the fire, the cremation of care. Our politicians were all photographed there. That's when they came up with the brainstorm idea for the nuclear bomb. So in 2000, 1995, 1998, 1985, Masonry is definitely connected with political affairs. Skull and Bones, Illuminati, banksters. Look at the symbolism everywhere. Even the federal post office buildings have the pyramid and the all-seeing eye. Yet the events which followed the death of Morgan first opened the public mind to the idea that already a secret influence pervaded all parts of the political, with which it was not very safe for an individual to come into conflict. So they controlled politics. And it says right here on page Roman numeral 18, which it is not very safe for an individual to come into conflict. And I am aware, as are many other people, that many people who learned too much or got in the way have been assassinated. President John Kennedy being one. There are many others. They control the politics, whether it's the Freemasonic organizations, high level, not talking about other low level people, Satanic organizations, Rosicrucians, Knights of Malta, Knights of Columbus, so many names. And a lot of the lower level members are oblivious to the real goings on, that they are being manipulated. But people show up at the gay pride parade. They get phone calls. Expensive signs are made. Those people didn't pay for them and couldn't make them in a day. If you ever ordered a sign, it takes a little time. It takes a little planning. The sign company needs to design it. They charge you a fee. It takes a few days to get your signs delivered. So those signs were made before the protests. Women's March, White Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter. This is all planned for public consumption. They control our politics. They control everything. And who's at the head of the water supply, the nuclear power plants, the sewerage company? I doubt very much it's people who are not part of these organizations. The boast of Bernard, already alluded to, was now brought to mind. The boast of Bernard. It was found to bias, if not to control, the action of officers of justice of every grade, to affect the policy of legislative bodies, and even to paralyze the energy of the executive head, the president. Wow. So one of the Freemasons was boasting that Freemasonry was biased and in control, and controlled the actions of officers of justice, court system, of every grade, to affect the policy of legislative bodies, and even to paralyze the energy of the executive head. So there are many examples of people either escaping from these groups, exposing stuff, which is some of the material in many of the books I have, talking to investigators and all that, into the conspiracies going on. And so people were either escaping or came clean and told the truth, or they were boasting about it, as it said here. This power, by gaining a greater appearance of magnitude from the mystery with which it was surrounded, was doubtless much exaggerated by the popular fancy during the period of the Morgan excitement. So a lot of people are drawn to these secret societies, these New Age cults, because of the mysteries. But after making all proper allowances, it is impossible, from a fair survey of the evidence, to doubt that it was something real, and that it might, in a course of time, have established an undisputed control over the affairs of the Union, the country. Has not its progress been somewhat roughly broken by the consequences of the violent movement against Morgan, which had its origin in the precipitate but fanatical energy of one division of the society? And ever since the agitation of that day, there is the best reason for believing that throughout the region most affected by it, an organization was made up after the fashion of Masonic lodges, the object of which was directly to stimulate a concerted insurrection against the governing powers of a neighboring country, Canada. So apparently back then they were trying to create an insurrection in Canada, calculated to give rise to a furious contest with a foreign nation, and to make plans by which such an attempt could be most effectively aided by citizens of the United States, in spite of all the national declarations of neutrality, and in defiance of all the fulminations of government at home. So not only did they bring about the war between the North and the South in the United States, they were trying to foment a war between the United States and Canada. And I believe it because I know what they did in France and Russia, World War I, World War II. Jewish people and other organizations banned or exiled from Britain, Spain, and many other countries. Problems in Germany. I've been going over the Encyclopedia Judaica. So it seems, as I keep on reading these books and making videos, I continue to find common denominators. Should that concern people today? But at the time of Morgan's mysterious disappearance, the investigations then pursued, imperfect as they were, and more than once completely baffled for the moment, brought forth the names of 69 different individuals, many of them of great respectability, of private character, who had been directly concerned in the outrages attending his taking off. So there were a lot of people involved with the planning and the abduction of Captain William Morgan and his murder and the cover-up, which lasted many years. A lot of news, a lot of excitement back then in American history. Freemasonry was sort of banned or went out from the limelight. And the way I understood it is they formed some other organizations with other names. So they had to hide and do something elsewhere. But the secret societies continued to grow. And later on, the public forgot about Freemasonry, and it continued to thrive again. And apparently this is what's behind the New Age and the New World Order today. These 69 persons were not living within a confined circle. They were everywhere. They had their homes scattered along an extent of country of at least 100 miles. Wow, a lot of people far and wide were trying to stop the publication of this book back then. This book written by a United States President, John Quincy Adams. Can you imagine my surprise when I bought this book years ago and read it? And again, I haven't made a video on it because I've been making a video on so many important books. Can't make a video on all of them at once. I had to do them in the order of importance or as my intuitive mind directed me to do. These 69 persons were not confined within a confined circle. Okay, that so many men at so many separate points should have acted in perfect concert in such a business as they were engaged in would scarcely be believed without compelling the inference of some distinct understanding existing between them. That's just an important thing to say. These groups are working together. They got governors and leaderships. They control CIA and alphabet agencies everywhere. They built the FEMA camps. They exercised in Jadehelm 15. And I'm sure a lot of people involved in these activities are not aware of the true purpose. But the New Age and the New World Order, globalization, is not good. Think about it for a minute. Don't you want to have local farming, local power supplies, local water supplies, local everything? Why would anybody want to be dependent on somebody else somewhere, especially if they had malevolent intentions? And then if there was a catastrophe on the planet or a war, wouldn't we all be in a better position to be sustainable and eat and be healthy? Some of humanity would survive. So this thing with globalization is a long sought after goal. They tried to do it in World War I. They tried to do it in World War II. They're really moved ahead with 911. And they've been dumping chemicals in our sky for more than 20 years. All kinds of other craziness going on. Testing of Ebola, AIDS, all that in secret laboratories. So obviously I didn't do very much on this book. Didn't even get out of the preface. But that's okay because the book goes on the shelf and next year I'm going to go through all the books again. And who knows when I'll make part 2 on this book. But in the meantime, I'm not trying to do an audio book. I would like to motivate people to go get this book and read it for themselves. And that is my goal, is to wake people up. So like I said on my website, rickmiracle.com, I do need some funds, crowdfunding they call it, whatever. I would like to take the next step on this particular place in my research, ending the 13 years and 4 years of making videos. What do I want to do for year 5, 2018? And I do have to probably get away from the YouTube videos and find another place to park my videos and spend some time compiling a book with what I believe is to connect the dots to everything that's been going on in our reality. Thank you for watching my video. Rick Miracle reporting.